Hi everybody, this is Coach McCreary from Baseball by the Yard. Thanks so much for stopping by today. Today's video tip is for pitchers, particularly young pitchers who are learning the correct mechanics. And it answers the question, what does the pitcher do with their back foot after they let go of the ball? Because you're going to see all kinds of variations of this with little kids. Now, some little kids are going to step completely forward. They throw and their foot comes all the way forward. You're going to get some pitchers who throw and finish out to the side in some way, and you're going to get some pitchers who leave it behind. They either just keep it there and don't move it at all, or they drag it. Okay, so those are some of the variations that you'll see. So I'm going to talk about today where I think a back foot should end up if a pitcher is trying to do his mechanics correctly and get the most out of his body, which is basically the goal of every single pitcher. Now, one of the things I absolutely do not want pitchers to do is to drag their back foot after they are throwing the ball. Reason why is because when you drag your back foot, you are putting the brakes on your hips. And our midsection is the strongest part of our body. So if we're not using our midsection to our fullest extent, we are losing a lot of power. If I'm losing the power from my midsection, I'm going to have to make up for that by putting more stress on my arm, and so that's not a very safe option that we have. So the last thing we want is pitchers to drag that foot. All right, so how do we do this? Well, when I'm working with kids, one of the things I will say is that your back foot really just comes along for the ride. There's really nothing you have to do to bring that leg forward. If you just let it come along for the ride, pretty much it's going to get to where it needs to be. There's some fine tuning that I'll talk about here in a little bit, but that's the basic message. So the one thing I will say for pitchers is just to make sure that when you let go of the ball, this back foot comes off the ground just a little bit. Now from there, your hips will take over. If the pitcher is rotating his hips properly, that is going to naturally bring his foot around properly. So it's really emphasizing rotating the hips, and the hips will bring that foot forward. Now, of course, how far forward should the pitcher go? Because I just said there's some pitchers who will bring their foot all the way around to the front. Now, this is not ideal because I'm not in a very good position if the ball is hit directly back at me or if the ball is hit a little bit over here. So I want to be in a little bit better fielding position, but I also want to completely rotate my hips. Another problem you'll see with little kids is they will rotate their hips only 90 degrees. So they will start with their back hip facing second base, and when they are done, they will finish with their hip facing third base. So that is a 90-degree turn. Now I really haven't used the most and gotten the most out of my hips. I want a full 180-degree turn with my hip. And so I want this back hip to be facing the batter when I'm done. That allows me to get the full range of motion out of my hips and therefore more power. More power out of my midsection means less stress on my arm. So how do I do that? Well, one of the things I will tell kids is to utilize these lines. So wherever your foot lands on the mound, you take an imaginary line and you go out directly out to the side. You want your back toes to be right on that line with your heel facing the sky. So it'll look like this. If I land here and I rotate my hips, lift my back foot off the ground, and I end up with my toes on that line. My heel is facing the sky. Now again, the one mistake kids make is they land with a flat foot. But you see what that does to my hip. It stops it when it's pointing to third base. So if I end up with my toe on the line, you see what happens when I rotate my foot and my toes are now on the line. See what it does to my hips. It allows my hips to rotate another 90 degrees. So I go from my hips here and I reverse my hips, end up with my toe on that line, and I have fully rotated my midsection. I get the most out of my body, and if the ball is hit back at me, now I can square up and field pretty easily. Okay, so it's just some common mistakes there you'll see with kids in the back foot. Generally, take that imaginary line. Their toes should end up on that line when they're done. Heel facing the sky. That allows them to rotate their hips. And biggest of all, they don't really have to do much with that back leg. Just lift it off the ground, and eventually their hips rotating will take that foot along for the ride. So hope that makes sense. I think that solves some problems when it comes to pitcher mechanics with little kids. It's a little more complicated than that, but hopefully you just get the gist of what a pitcher should do with his lower half on that pitch. All right, folks, well, I'm Coach McCreary. Have a great day. Signing off. Until next time, take care, everybody.